Welcome back, everybody. I'm working on the DRZ tonight. I've got to get this one done. I've got some work to do on the Dakota, but I need to get this bike done. It's been too long and spring is coming. It's really nice out today. Snow is melting quick. So I've got 3 of the valves put in. I'm getting a little bit better at doing this, and I saved the last one to show you guys. Had the valves, you can see there's still a lot of Prussian blue in there. Valves were lapped in and the valve seats were cut by a shop. It just wasn't worth it for what they charged to buy the cheap tool from Amazon, which I hear doesn't work very well, and cut the seats myself for what I was able to get a company called Universal Cycle to do this. And I drove out because it's a couple hours away from me. I booked ahead, drove out, dropped the head off, did some shopping, came back and picked it up the same day. It's really good service and they did really nice work on this. So anyways, new valves, new valve seals. So the valve seals, let's see, I'll grab an old one as you're probably familiar with, look like that. New ones I put on, some guys were using an installation tool, and it's just like a valve stem with a shoulder on it. What I found worked just as good. This has got a tapered shoulder, but this is just a punch. I think this is a Canadian Tire punch. 4mm or 5/32 is just the right size that I was able to put it into the valve guide, push that seal on there, and you'll feel the seal kind of pop into place. You've got to put some lube on it. They say Molly based lube. And then don't forget to put, it's already in there, but the spring seat, there's a metal spring seat that goes on to underneath the valve springs before you do this. Now, since all the valves are ready to be installed, because my 3-angle valve job is done, I'm just putting a little bit of assembly lube on the stem of the valve and just pop it in to the guide. And you'll feel it go through that valve seal and it'll kind of hold it there. Now for the fun part, this kit came with seals, valves, new valve springs. It came with new valve keepers as well, but it won't come with these seats and the top part of your valve spring retainer, I guess is what those are. So I had to reuse those, so don't lose those if you're doing this job. Anyways, I saw the guys online talking about how difficult it is to put the keepers in with an cheap Amazon valve spring compressor. Now, all the valve spring compression tools that I have currently are the ones that are like a little jaw puller that you put over, and it's for a V8 like car engine. So I made this, and this is just in the bottom of a big C-clamp. And this was just a sleeve that I had at work. It was from a belt tensioning device. I just put 2 washers on the bottom here and ground those out with the carbide to a cutter and a die grinder so that it's tight enough that it's got kind of a friction fit, so I don't have to hold that in place, and also it's not gonna, the bottom part of your C-clamp isn't going to walk off when you're tightening it, so that's why I've got that stuck in there. And then it should rotate enough here to make up for the angle. It's been working so far, but if the guys were struggling with a purpose-built tool from Amazon to do this, it's probably even harder with this tool, because a homemade one probably isn't gonna work as good as a purpose-built one. So what I've been doing is I've just got a piece of wood. I gotta angle this a little bit different. I just put a piece of wood on the back side to hold the valve in place without hopefully damaging anything. I think I've damaged anything so far. You just gotta work your tool in, and I'm gonna tighten that up. And just make sure that you can see in there and that it stands centered, and that it's not going to bend the valve on you. So as you can see, it's tedious, does work. Just keep her centered so it doesn't hang up. There's lots of play in that valve spring, so it can move around a little bit on you. There we go. So I'm pretty sure right there is about where I want it. So then you take sorry, I'm trying to stay out of the way. Your magnetized screwdriver. I got some assembly lube on there. It's pretty sticky stuff. You just got to go through your window here in the side of your tool. And now that I'm filming, it's not going to work for me very well. Oh yeah, moved around on me a little. Come on, you. I like to put it on the tight side first. That's not going to happen this time, I don't think. And then then it'll hold it there for you. Okay, come on now. Stand it up here. This will be a little easier. Have gravity working with me instead of against me. I can drop it into place. Dang thing. But screwdriver's just doesn't want to let go of it. A little bit too strong of a magnet on that screwdriver is all. All right, now release it just a little bit. I'll get my other, try and get this so you can sort of see in there. Try and get my other keeper. Just want to make sure that it's right side up. Slide her on in. As you can see, you gotta get the spring compressed just enough. I don't want to go too far though. The keeper can lock into the groove. There we go. And you can let it off. I don't know, click there. Guess it popped into the groove. All right, there we go. Installed. So that's the last one. And then what you might want to do is just gingerly tap it here. See? Just to seat those keepers, make sure they're locked right in tight. And also if they're a little bit low when we do our valve set, we want to make sure that it's sticky assembly lube. We want to make sure that it's all at the top of its travel so that it doesn't affect our valve set. So the gentleman that had taken this bike apart, I guess he was planning on putting it back together again. He did a really nice job of labeling all the parts and writing a little note on the clearance. So this is left exhaust. Marked it on a little note in there and everything. So I got my spring buckets. I think I'm just going to start with the valves, or pardon me, with the shims that came out of it. See where we're at with that. Put those on, do a valve set, pardon me, put the cams in, check my valve clearance. I want to put the head back together because I've got all these parts, everything apart, and I wanted to start with the head. When I bought the bike, supposedly all it needed was valves, but then, as I told you in a previous video, the crank's got a little bit too much play in it. So I've got the new rod bearing. Let me take it out of there. I've got the new connecting rod over here. New piston ring set right there. Some Murray stuff's supposed to be pretty good. And then there's the engine. Cleaned this all up on the weekend here, and I'm gonna start tearing into that. But I'd rather get, instead of having everything apart at the same time, I want to get the head put back together. So now that I've got a note here, everything exhaust left. So the only thing I don't know about is if he means exhaust left as in looking at the head like this, or if he means exhaust left looking at the head like this. gonna assume this is the top of the head because that's the way I would do it. So I'm just gonna put my keeper in. Now, don't think so it's saying 310 on it. That's why he didn't write it down on here, because the shims, I can still see it and it's marked with the clearance. Let's take it out and show you guys. There we go. I've also got, where is it now? Anyway, I got a shim kit. Here it is right here. Just pick this up off of, I think this is off Amazon. All right, so I'm just gonna put the buckets back in like this. When I find them, I'm gonna have to, oh boy, that's tight. Let's put some engine oil on these. I was gonna do it all dry, but if it turns out they're within spec, I don't wanna have to take everything back apart again. All right, so I'll just go ahead and figure out what's in each package, what goes where, put all those in. All right, so here's where I got to with my cylinder head and valves. I've got them kind of in the middle of the road right now, you could say. Thinking about it after, I think that I might tighten these up, pardon me, loosen them up and go to the end of the spec. So the loosest I can get, like the most clearance I can get stock, because they're brand new valves and they will wear in quickly to where they find their home, you could say, or break in. And then they'll probably stay where they're supposed to be after that. So you just, all I did was snug these up, and that'll give you an accurate enough read on the valves. Now what I noticed with these is, when I first put the valves in, the buckets on and I started to shim them, I used the old shims to kind of find a place to start out. And the new valves were out so far, there was such a huge gap in there that I was starting to wonder if I got the wrong valves. So that's what you can expect. By the time you're done and you can't put any more thinner shims in to get your valve clearance in here, you're gonna end up with quite a big spec. Like, I mean, it looked like a 1/16 of an inch in there. So don't be surprised if that happens. Now, when that happens, you do have to measure it and try and figure it out. I just started off with, I just kind of guessed on the shims, and then I went ahead and checked with a feeler gauge. And that first measurement gave me a good enough idea of what I had to put in there to get my shims into spec. So now they're in spec. The valves are in the cylinder. Seals are in there, they're all new. So all I really have to do now is, I might, like I say, I might tighten them up, or pardon me, loosen them up a little bit. And then all I have to do is torque all the caps down. Of course, I'm using pre-lube on the cams themselves and the bearings there. And then I can start assembling. So that's where I'm going to leave the head at. It's pretty much ready to put on. I might do a couple more little adjustments. I've got it all clean. It's assembled. Now I'm going to start on the bottom end of the bike. So my next video is going to be teardown of the bottom end. Got the cylinder all cleaned up here, ready to go. But I have to tear into the bottom end. And the fun part about this is going to be getting this crank bearing changed. It's just, as I showed you in the first video on this bike, that is just too loose for me being comfortable. Yeah, side to side and up and down. Anyways, you guys saw the video on that. So that's where I'm gonna go next. I'll be rebuilding putting all new bearings through the transmission and the crankcase, new crank bearings, shift linkage, all that stuff. Not linkage, pardon me, but like your drum and stuff, like shift drum and all those bearings I've got in a package that I got off of eBay. So start on that next. I just want to thank everybody for watching. I know there's a lot of videos on how to do this job. Hopefully it helps somebody out. I might as well take you guys with me. It's going to be a fun project, getting this all torn apart and rebuilt. So hit that like and subscribe and share if you know somebody that this could help, and I'll see you in the next one.